do that again. Welcome everybody to Happy Hour. I'm so glad to see everybody. This is a popular topic, and we're recording, and we'll be posting it to our YouTube channel as long as I can get enough bandwidth to upload it. Otherwise, I'll just be posting a link and put it in our Google Drive. But I think, and it's not just us. I mean, I can see from everybody here, we're all San Clemente breeders and stewards, but a lot of heritage breeds have trouble breaking into 4-H, FFA, and other youth programs. And so I really hope we can have a great conversation and maybe come up with some ideas to how people can start to tackle that. And I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves, but I'm going to take the opportunity to really quick introduce Victoria Olson. Victoria is in Ohio, and she is a Navy veteran and the chairman of our Youth Services Committee. So, oh, and I lost her after I introduced her. Well, I'm sure she'll pop it back on. So does everybody want to introduce themselves real quick? Well, I'm Sarah Butcher Howell, and I'm here in Virginia. And we've been breeding SCI since 2008. So, Becky, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and the boys?
Sure. My name's Becky. I run Moonlit Pastures Farm in Tennessee. These are two of the kids, Hunter and Connor. Okay, will you stop? I've got 5, 6 goats. I don't know. My brain's fried. And then I also do grass-fed finished beef.
Awesome. Erin, Jenny, you want to introduce yourselves?
You can go ahead.
Oh, I guess I hit her. All right, Jenny and Erin. We are in Minnesota. We have 2 San Clemente Island does that we got from Erin Link last year. So they are just over a year old, like 13 months old now. And then we have other goats that are Pygmy Nigerians. We have a total of 11 goats and chickens. And
working on getting more.
But and we have 2 children, human children, that are in 4-H. So they haven't shown animals for goats, but they've done llama showing for a leasing program. So.
Awesome. Krista, are you with us? Do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, there she is. Oh, hold on. You're still muted. Let me see if I can undo that. Oh, I can unmute you. There you are.
Okay. Yeah, myself and Caitlin are both here. We live just down the street a little ways from Sarah here in Fauquier County, Virginia, and we've had the SCIs for 4 years now, I think. I don't even remember, and we have been showing at the local fair since we got them. It's only been 2? I thought it's been 3. I think this 3rd, 4th year. I don't know. And with the babies that we've had since December, we're at 16 SCIs down here. And then we have 2 Nigerians, and Caitlin's working on the paperwork to try and get all of our stuff registered and everything that we need to do. So, but yeah, we've been working with the 4-H the past couple of years to show them and getting ready to register 5 for the fair in a couple of weeks. Got to have them registered by Friday, so.
Oh, awesome. Okay, Victoria. Oh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I got it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm struggling with this computer. I'm Victoria. We're really new to San Clemente. We have our first 3 still. We're still trying to get our hands on some more to kind of start our little herd. But my oldest daughter isn't actually old enough to show in 4-H yet, so we're going to start now working with our local 4-H to get them accepted because they have the horns and everything else, so that when it comes time for her to show, I've already done all the groundwork and we have no issues. So it's kind of we're in Ohio too.
Awesome. Well, great. All right, real quick, let's see. Before we start in on the actual program, around the herd, anybody have any news, kids, or anything things they need? We're a quiet bunch. All right. Let's see. News as far as the association. We just finished a fundraiser. I'm still waiting for the numbers to come in. Hopefully we raised enough so we can get our online herd book database, yay, which I'm really excited about. And if you haven't checked it out, check the links for examples of work by this, the company we're going to be using are on our Facebook page, so you can find them. And the other big news is we're starting planning for Go-to-Palooza. October, I believe, 7th is the Saturday, and we are looking for, the main Go-to-Palooza is in Charlottesville, Virginia. Everybody is welcome. It is a great place to set up buys and sells, so bring your goats, and you can meet up with sellers, or if you want to, or you can meet up with, people who want to buy, or, try to make arrangements. You can pick up goats that you're buying. Laura, who hosts, has one guest room. So if you need to, if you want to come and stay a distance, she can put you up for the night or two. And I'm about an hour away, and we have room also. So we are looking for hosts. We want to start some regional ones. So if anybody in the upper Midwest, Erin, Jenny, or nobody's here for me to make a plug in the Pacific Northwest or California, would like to co-host on that Saturday, we do a virtual meeting also. So we'll link up. It's a great time and very easy to host, nothing potluck, and it's just fun. Check out goats, check out infrastructure, learn and stuff like that. Krista's been to, I think this will be our third Go-to-Palooza, and Krista's been to both of them. Becky, I think, has been to both of the virtual meetings. So it is a lot of fun. And we do a tour of Laura's farm, and if we have regionals, we can do tours of other farms. And, we can let Laura's goats have some time off. All right. So our program, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Let's see. Let me know if you see my agenda. All right. Okay. So I guess off the top of my head, of course, for most of us are thinking 4-H. Caitlin is a member of the Future Farmers of America also, and she's also a Girl Scout and working on, considering starting to plan her, is it a Golden Project? I wasn't a Girl Scout, so I probably got that wrong.
Yeah, possibly the Gold Award.
Gold Award, okay. Are there any other youth programs or types of youth programs we should be, thinking about in the back of our minds as we move forward with stuff that anybody can think of, or?
Sometimes schools do like get-togethers. I know in my area, one day a year, a bunch of people bring their goats, different farmers bring their goats down, and kids from schools, they come and they look at all the goats and people talk about the goats. So sometimes schools do things like that.
Oh, cool. That's a great, great idea. All right. Okay, so I think the first thing that we all worry about is the obstacles, because obviously San Clemente's and a bunch of other heritage breeds. I know Wendy Palmer's hoping to log in. She works with, aside from San Clemente's, Michon hogs, which are essentially a lard breed, so obviously not your typical commercial hog. And so I guess, what kind of obstacles do you guys see with trying to get SCIs into 4-H? I just named some of the things I've seen or heard about. Is there something we're missing, or other thoughts?
Is this obstacles in getting them in 4-H, or just in general in getting them?
Oh.
So I know specifically,
well, I think
like in 4-H,
I think for 4-Hers it can be difficult to find SCIs or other types of heritage breeds because their numbers might not be large. Like, for example, if we need a 4-Her in Alaska, well, we don't have any breeders in Alaska. Where the heck, and I also think sometimes, I know a lot of standard livestock breeders work with 4-Hers and give deals and stuff like that. That's new. I think a new concept to the SCI community. So SCIs can still be pricey. So I definitely think that's what I meant. That was the top of my thought. But does that make sense? No. Oh, I'm talking to myself. No.
Hey, who's talking right now?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was nodding my head, but I wasn't.
Oh, okay. When I go back and forth between the script or between the agenda, I'm guessing, can you guys see the agenda right now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't. I can either look at you guys or I can look at the agenda. I can't do both. So,
Can you hear me? Excuse me,
Are
can
there
you hear
any-
me?
Yes.
somebody, yeah, who is that? I'm sorry, I don't recognize the number.
Okay,
Oh, it's
I'm not
Jerry.
sure who's talking right now.
Oh, Jerry, you sound horrible.
I
For
know
those
I
who
sound
don't
really
know-
bad, but
Oh,
who's
Jerry,
talking?
Jerry Riddick is actually an Arapawa goat breeder here in Virginia, and Arapawas definitely fall into the same category that we do, and so I'm so excited that we have an
I'm the
Arapawa.
only one in Virginia.
Oh,
I'm the only one in Virginia still.
so yeah, we definitely.
Can you understand me? I knew I was
I
going to be really bad.
I can. No, so yeah, Jerry's the only Arapawa breeder in Virginia, and the last count I read, there's only 12 Arapawa breeders in the country. So when I talk about obstacles of obtaining, it's definitely hard. Arapawas are the perfect example of trying to obtain a rare breed for 4-H.
It really is. And we have, you were talking about the 4-H, and I fell into the middle of a conversation. My daughter, that's 19, is actually working as a 4-H camp, the biggest one, I think, in Virginia this year. We're real new to that because my kids missed the whole 4-H thing because people never would respond to us around here. So we actually have 2 of our does at the camp right now, and took one that just had her twins, and she got so nervous she's basically trampled one of them to death. So when you were talking about obstacles a minute ago, I'm not sure if that's something, I could only hear part of the conversation, but that was something that we just ran into for the first time. We've never had that happen.
Oh my goodness.
So if you're, I know it was. So when you're talking about taking your goats up to school, or taking them to places, we don't know. She's not a first-time mom, so we don't know if it just made her nervous or what exactly happened. But Jamie's probably going to have to put it down tonight because she said it's just not doing good. But that's something to keep an eye out for, is maybe don't take babies. Maybe just take your bigger goats if you're taking them places to show like that.
Oh, that's a horrible story. Thanks for sharing, Jerry. Definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it was something never ever considered that could happen. But it's when you're talking about already having low numbers of the San Clemente and the Arapawa, and then right away you lose one of them. That's tough. It's like, there goes one, because we had another mother. This was her second or third birth. We bought her from another breeder last year, and she left her babies out in the cold rain overnight. We didn't know she had delivered them, and they died. So it's been rough. It's been a rough week. But anyway, as far as the 4-H goes, it seems to be really thriving around here, and nobody where we are has ever heard of our goats or the San Clemente.
Where are you from again, Jerry?
We were just outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
And
We live
it's
in
the
Goldvein, Fauquier, Fredericksburg area with Sarah. So.
Okay, so you're further north. And so we just moved to South Virginia, down just about an hour south of Lynchburg.
Okay.
And so around Richmond, everybody was just like either the Nigerian or into the more dairy goat kind of goats. And down here, they seem to just want the Boer goats. I think that's how you say it, Boer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're real big here, and they're real big in North Carolina. So we're kind of new on the market here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I missed part of it because I was late dialing in and trying to figure out if we could even connect. So I apologize for disrupting the flow.
No. That's the point of happy hour. Speak up when you want to. It's informal. Okay, so we talked obstacles. So my question is how do we start to tackle these obstacles? What do we need to do to get, not only I think we need to promotion so that people hear about our goats, but also how do we tackle, the non-commercial body type? We're slow growth. We don't get bulky like a boar. We have weird udders, totally different than a Nigerian. But we give such great milk. What are your thoughts?
So one of the programs that a local county's 4-H has is like a special breed or a heritage breed. And I think that might be something that at least getting your foot in the door with the 4-H programs. And I know there's other people here who have already done all of this, but just specifically in our area, that's one way that I'm going to have to go into it because they're not meat goats and they're not dairy goats. They have horns and there's all those other issues. So I think to get my foot in the door, it's going to be with the special or heritage breed program.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. When I contacted the Minnesota State leader for 4-H and then our county leader for 4-H, our state leader said that they wouldn't be working on it. There hasn't been enough demand for it. So I guess just keep asking. Even if you've asked once, ask again. Maybe we'll create a demand. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. But our county leader said that she was going to add to our county fair premium book, quote, other breeds that heritage breeds could go under. And then if there becomes numbers, then they can consider splitting up the class based on whatever enrolls. I don't know if our kids will actually show this year. I don't think I can convince them to because they've never shown goats. They kind of deterred and with being told that they couldn't show our other goats because we don't disbud any of our goats. All of our goats kept their horns. They're just kind of a little turned off from showing animals. But I'll say with the experience with the llamas, our kids just had to do the livestock quality assurance training to be eligible for state for 4-H. And everything that they covered in that class was all about meat and dairy. And it didn't cover animals that were still considered livestock but were not used for meat and dairy. So they were really upset because they went there for learning about llamas and nothing was applicable. So they left very frustrated. They got their certificate, but they were just like, this doesn't even work for us. So it's not just goats that we're going to be facing this challenge with because it's not traditional. It's, we're not part of the mainstream animals.
Well, and I think in our area, when I talked to our 4-H person, I believe in November here in this area, she said one of the downfalls that they wouldn't pick up the Arapawas for us is because there's not enough of them that the kids can buy to be able to show, like to compete or whatever they wanted to do with them. Like we made, like so far we've had four bucks born. For those to go in, they want to dehorn them, and I'm like, but those are beautiful. Don't take those off. But so we can't even. And I don't know if any of your local 4-H people have told y'all that, but she said they need more of them for the kids to be able to have more than one.
I was going to say, I had it for afterwards, but I think this is a perfect place to put in. Jenny sent me, and I have the links here, and I'll make sure they go out. In Minnesota, they do animal leasing. And let me see if it will let me open it. Ooh, I think it will. If you open the links, when I send them out, it gives you Minnesota's description, general requirements for leased animals, exhibiting leased animals, care, expenses, and all the types of things you have to consider. And then, oh, can you see it? I opened a new link. I didn't know about that. Oops. Well,
I'm actually just on my phone with no.
oh, okay.
No
And then,
computer.
oh, perfect. The second link is an example of the lease form. And I think, especially for breeders that don't have children or their children are beyond 4-H, I think it's a really great option to consider leasing and seeing if you can find a category or a program for the goats. It's a really great way to create numbers. So, like, for example, we have a breeder in the Pacific Northwest that has like 25 does that she wants to sell but hasn't been able to sell. And so, maybe, suddenly if a 4-H group shows up with 25 leased does, oh, you've created the numbers. And I actually mentioned this leasing program that Aaron and Jenny sent me to the Michon hogs, because they're having the same issue, is that, oh, well, you can show them if you have numbers. And so, well, how many 4-Hers parents really want, Michons are slower growing, but there's still a large hog. How many 4-Hers really want a hog on their property? And you really don't want one, you want at least two, because it's just mean to have sort of a single hog, but if you can lease and sort of 4-Her goat, you come to your farm to take care of it. Oh, suddenly you have numbers. And, oh, I now get a Michon category. In Georgia, where she is, I think she said it takes 6 to 9 hog entries to make a breed-specific category. So,
wow. Yeah.
Something to keep in mind, when you're talking to people, like, well, how many goats would I need to create a San Clemente category or a heritage goat category? And, suddenly somebody's leasing goats and you have a category. I will.
And how are they working their leasing program? Is it just are they paying a monthly fee?
Jenny, Aaron, do you want to speak about Jaron?
Sure.
I'm combining their names already. Aaron and Jenny, their children lease llamas for 4-H, and so that's where I learned about the program, and that's why they sent me the information.
Oh.
Do you guys want to talk about it?
Yeah. So our county. We have a gentleman that owns 12 llamas, and that's his thing. That's what he enjoys doing. But he doesn't have children to show them, so he works with 4-H to help socialize and show and train the animals. In Minnesota, we can't work with them year-round. It's just not really, it's hard to do in the winter. So the children sign a leasing agreement in the winter time, and then they start an indoor set of lessons where we work with him. The children go to like once a month, twice a month lessons. It kind of like scales up as it gets warmer with just basic like book work. And then once it dries out, then the students get to go to his property and work with the animals. The leasing agreement, he is extremely generous and does not charge anything to the families to work with his animals. So we don't have to pay anything other than our 4-H registration, which doesn't work in every county that way. Some kids do pay, but our host farm, if you will, is like super awesome. So the children don't get as much time with the animals as if they owned them, because he only lets the families visit twice a week. So kids can only come up to twice a week, and that's if it works for their family schedule. But so the animals aren't as well trained when it comes to state as families that have their own animals, and they can desensitize them and whatnot. But it's still an awesome experience. It's great for the animals. It's great for the owner. It's great for the kids. It's great for moms that don't want to have more animals, so that, like one more breed of animals. It's like, we started it because we thought maybe we wanted llamas, and so we wanted the family to get to know the creatures, and we decided we don't really need one, but we still like the program. So I'm now what do they call it? A certified volunteer or whatever. So I assist with the program now, but I do very little
really cool
work. I do anything else for him.
So does he take care of like buying the feed for them and medical stuff and all of that?
He covers all the vet fees, all the food, all of the fence line repairs and stuff like that. We, as a family, as a household, we have become his manure delivery place. He brings his manure to our garden, and so he has a place to get rid of it, which is awesome because he's only like, what, 8 miles away?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
We used to own alpacas. So
we get
I
free
understand
fertilizer.
that. Yeah. Well, that's a really cool thing.
It is really cool, and I have encouraged him to charge, and he refuses to take money. So we just, as parents, rally together at the end of the season at county fair, and we all chip in and provide him a nice gift. So,
That's really neat.
Yeah. But some years
that's something that we could do with guinea pigs as well.
Say it again.
I said that may be something we could do with guinea pigs as well.
Yeah, I can see it being able to be applied to pretty much anything, especially herd animals, where a family doesn't have the ability to take on a whole herd, but they want to be able to show one or two. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. Very good. Well, thanks for that information.
Yeah, I just thought it was such a novel idea and a great way, especially, again, if parents don't want animals on their property or maybe horned animals on their property. And I think too, maybe when you're dealing with, rare animals, that way, if you're the one still in charge of their vet bills and their vetting and, you're not necessarily leaving it up to chance to a youth that's still in the learning phase. You have more control. But when you go,
as we start raising our numbers up of our pigs, as we start building their pastures here, that may be a great, since we would have excess stock around. Just
definitely
a great thing for kids to be able to get into. Yeah.
And if you go through the Minnesota link, it gives you, excuse me, the pollen is killing, or maybe it's the smoke, I don't know which. The Minnesota link gives you all different types of examples and food for thought. So, whether are you going to charge? Are you leasing them like you would lease a horse and they're leaving the property and coming back at the end of the season? So lots of different food for thought options in that link that I really love. It's such a great idea. Oh, I'm so glad the buys, mentioned it. I never would have considered looking at it. Dreamed it was a possibility that people are doing.
Yeah, and when it comes to the money piece, I don't encourage anybody to do it for free. Like, I really wish that Dan would charge people, because even if it's just a deposit for the commitment piece of it, because it does get hard, because like 100 kids sign up at the beginning, but then 2 months into it, it's like now you're down to 60, and then 2 months into it, now you're down to 10. It's like, where'd everybody go? But if there's, in addition to this contract, if there's actually like a financial investment or like a contract, like I will show up this many times at this frequency, it's a responsibility to the animals and the owner that they know you're going to follow through, and not just like we didn't pay anything for it, no big deal.
Right, and that's where we get, like, Jenny took a litter of piglets to the 4-H thing. And, everybody wants to play with them. The kids are all, oh, I want one. But that means, it's like I want a dog. But, that's a forever commitment.
Yeah, and our leases are just for the 1 year of programming. So it's basically from like January through September, because our state fair is in September. It's not even a full year commitment, and then it kind of restarts every time. So they'll send out the announcement through the county saying, hey, we're starting the program again. If you're interested, come to this info meeting, get your name on the list, and then it kind of escalates from there.
Well, that's really neat. Thank you so much for sharing.
So, Krista, do you want to talk about how you guys use SCIs in Fauquier 4-H?
Yeah, we do, like, the first year we had the 2 boys that we got from Laura, where Go to Palooza is, from her farm, Temple Farm. We've taken them to school for different FFA events. They love the babies, especially when you have the babies. But, even just the first year we showed the 2, it was different, just trying to figure out, since we had bucklings too, how that works. Most don't like bucklings at fairs, but they'll take them under a year. But any event or anything can go to or do where the 4-H is going or anything with school or whatever. We try and get there and get that exposure out. Last year we didn't show, but we still had them at the fair as like exhibits, and had, made up a nice sign. We had some of the postcards, which if there are any more postcards or flyers or anything that we can have at the fair. People are very, very interested because looking at the other goats that are there at the fairs, you can see a big difference between the SCIs and the Nigerians and the Nubians and all that stuff. And people just love their look because it is so different and unique. But, anything that we can get, like I said, the FFA school events, and the fair, if their 4-H group is having events, we try and attend as many as we can. And again, exposure. There's old Busted Brewery up here, Busted. They ask the 4-H group to come and bring the goats all the time for stuff. We do goat yoga. Just all sorts of different events, just anything to get that exposure out there. I know at school the last couple weeks this year up here, we had a mama who rejected one of her twins, and so Caitlin reached out to her ag teachers, and he was at school almost every day the last 2 weeks of school.
That's really good.
Yeah, and everybody loved him. They're all over everybody's Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. But
isn't that fun?
Any chance, any opportunity to get the exposure out there, like I said, just to have them on exhibit, not even show them, but just to have them there, it's great. A lot of communication with people.
I'm going to speak up. When our foster kids were here in Fauquier for the 4th of July, we have a pet parade. And of course, people show up with like their dogs, which is mainly it. Our foster kids took SCIs on harnesses to walk down the main road. We made the front page of the paper because everybody was like, oh, that goat. And I mean, they were smaller than most of the dogs because they were still nursing. So they were, under 2 months old. And as Krista said, any event we've taken them to, like, the co-op has had open house days where, we've taken the goats, and customers come in for hot dogs and hamburgers and they get to play with goats and stuff like that. So now I don't know if every 4-H currently does this, but Andrew Baker in Minnesota, he has since I think he's now a junior in college, has obviously aged out of 4-H, but when he was a 4-Her, he used to he wasn't allowed to show his Arapawas and SCIs, but he used to every year do like a big presentation, like with a trifold board at the fair, all about SCIs and their history and what makes them special and different things like that. I'm assuming he also did one on Arapawas, but I only ever paid attention to the SCIs, to be honest. So that was, I think, that's a great way to try to, it sounds sort of like what they're doing at the Fauquier Fair, anything to show. And he also, talks about some of, not just the goat, just not the breed, but also some basic information about goats, like whether it be every year, I think he chose a topic like deworming or hoof trimming and different things like that. So
I'm going to chime in really quick. We recently did a great goat hike as a fundraiser, and I know I posted it on the page, but if somebody hasn't seen it, it was more so just for exposure because our oldest isn't enough to show. We decided to take the San Clementes and just getting their name out there, and she is a clover bud, so she's going to do her project, which is a poster on the San Clementes, and includes fun fact information, kind of like what you were saying as well. But I thought the goat hike was perfect opportunity to kind of get them out and to have people see them. Sorry.
That's fine. I think I love those photos. That was such a cool idea, the great goat hike. I liked it a lot. Does anybody have, I know some 4-H's do goat carts. I know it sounds like go-karts, but they build carts and they draft with goats. Has anybody? I know that's an option in some places. Oh, do you guys have that in Minnesota?
Well, we don't have it, but we do have a cart that we plan on modifying and using it to pull with the goats. So it's a future project for our daughter. She was going to do it over this past year, but then one of our, not San Clemente, but one of our boys passed away over the winter, so the project kind of got put on the back burner. But assuming that we get a few more this year, I think it might be resurrected. So she just heard us talking about it. She's like, what? She's in the other room. But so yes, that is something that's on our mind. But also, I don't know why I didn't think about this, is the demonstration piece of 4-H and using that as a way of showing them off without having them to have to fulfill a category, because there is a demonstration category in the static projects, like not in the livestock barn, but in what we have as a 4-H building where the students can do a presentation. So I didn't think about that. I will have to push that a little. Otherwise, the posters are an idea for the statics too. The older kids can do that as well.
I'm going to guess that must be what Andrew did with the demonstration category. Okay, so I'll put that there. I'll make this look prettier, and I'll take out my notes to myself. You guys don't need to worry about making promotions, getting them to the Fergusons for the Fauquier Fair. You might be inundated if everybody starts sending her stuff for the fair.
So one other category that I only thought about during the goat hike was pack. And I know that I personally brought up some information on pack at one point in the group, but the pack category that we have, the first year they don't require an active pack on their back. The second year they require a light pack, and then the third year they need to be able to walk off leash. So the only downfall to that is they can't have horns in our area. However, that's something that we can include these goats in on if we can kind of bypass the horn issue. Because if they can walk with the pack and then walk off leash, that's something that these goats can easily do.
That is a cool idea. I'd never heard about that category. Love it. I'm trying to think what else. There's something else I was going to say, but we talked about goat carts. We talked about pack, the demonstration. I'm trying to think. Do they do fiber testing, or is that more like the general county fair where they, fiber quality?
I don't know if we do it for goats. I know we do pack and fiber for llamas. There's an option. Nobody in our county does pack, but it is a category for state. But I'm pulling up my premium book right now to see if it's an option, and just haven't seen it actually. Maybe nobody enters it. It might be in that category. I just have never seen anybody enrolled.
You guys all know so much more. My expertise is entomology. I was the judge for the state fair 3 years in a row. So if you want to know about getting a bug club together, I can do that. Oh, sorry.
I love it. I love it. I love the snort too. I snort also.
So, well, Jenny's checking. I was going to say, yeah, we had one of the bug clubs was run by the entomologist at Fort Detrick Army Base. And for those who obviously are not local, Fort Detrick is where they do chemical and bioweapons research. And so he did a lot of traveling, and you could always tell what which of the collections were out of his club, because there was always some bizarre foreign bug that, one year they all had bugs from Thailand. I'm like, oh, Army doing work in Thailand this year? How did you know? I'm like, just a good guess. Well, waiting on Jenny, any other thoughts or potential ways of trying to incorporate? I was going to say, I do think one of the ways to overcome it is just repetition. Just continually bring it up, and education.
Yeah, getting in everybody's face all the time, and not, like I said, anytime you can, even if you can't show, just exhibit or, whatever, just to have the presence there. Just
yeah.
in the present. So.
Sherry Talbot has a great article that was in Goat Journal, and I'm sure we could get copies of it, that talks about the importance of horns and why goats should have horns and why you shouldn't disbud. And it obviously for San Clemente's, the horns are part of the way we identify them, but there's a lot of great health reasons with, and especially depending on where you are, it might not be as helpful in Minnesota, but for those of us here in sort of the South where we get really hot, the horns help to dissipate heat. So maybe, educating people on why horns are important, maybe you can get further along. You never know.
I think one of our biggest, sorry.
Oh, okay. That's something that I've noticed is just explaining to people why we leave the horns on our goats. Then they feel like we're actually looking out for our goats. And then they ask me, well, why do other people do it? And I tell them, well, they do it for safety, but I care about the animal's health as well. So.
I think that was our biggest concern when we were first getting goats, is we didn't want goats with horns because everybody made the horns sound like they're going to stab you. And they're just like this big safety hazard with the kids. And now we actually prefer our horn goats. I mean, they come with built-in handles, and it's amazing. And they're so much easier to handle with the horns. And if the goats have exposure to kids when they're young, or we even have a 6-year-old San Clemente, and she's a little skittish, but she doesn't do anything to the kids. And so I think, that, like you guys are saying, the education piece is just really huge, especially people just getting in and are timid by the horns.
And I've noticed with SCIs, and I think this is a holdover from being feral goats, is they seem very conscious, I'm not going to speak well tonight, of where their horns are. I don't know, probably because, when you're out in the wild, you have to know where your horns are. You don't want to be knocking into rocks. You don't want to be, hooking yourself on vegetation and stuff. So you really need to know how to move your head. And that's my theory. I mean, I don't know how to prove it, but, it's definitely something to talk about that, I've noticed this, and, maybe you'll start to get somebody that will start to pay attention and look like, oh, she really does know where her head is, or she does have an idea of what she's doing. So I think that's part of the reason they can always get their heads into the smallest places, but of course you can't get horns back out of those places easily.
Well, and I've always wondered if it's not like cats, like we have always been told that if you cut a cat's whiskers off, then they don't know what spaces they can fit into. And so I've always wondered the same thing kind of about goats. If you take their horns off, what if they get stuck somewhere because they didn't realize they couldn't fit?
That's a good idea. Erin?
It makes me wonder.
Yeah, definitely. Erin, what were you going to say?
Well, just a couple of days ago, we were watching one of our goats had an itch between its hooves, and she was very, very good at itching exact spots in between her hooves and standing there on 3 feet. It was amazing to watch, and that's exactly what we see, is that they know exactly where their horn is. They scratch exactly where they need to. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's definitely, and when you guys start to get older bucks that have like the really wide horns, you'll start to see them just twist their head right to like get their rump. I mean, it is amazing. And it's like, they're not scratching the whole area. It's just like, like a 2-inch spot or something that's bugging them. So you're right. I really do think, they are self-aware and they know how to handle them. Not to say there have been cases, not with people, but I mean, I think it was Aaron who lost 2 bucks to that were headbutting, and it just just right. And so I mean, obviously they can and will, but again, it was each other, it was rut, and so there was a reason. On the other hand, who's going to take a buck and rut to a 4-H fair or a 4-H event? It's just not what you're going to do.
Yeah, okay, so I found our county premium book for goats, and there is not a category for pack or for cart for goats. So maybe at our state level we do, but our county does not recognize it. But both dairy and goat have showmanship dairy and meat both have showmanship, but they don't have like an extra like agility or anything like that. So that is something to maybe consider is under this other category is creating some unique things that are, like for the llamas, for example, you can do a costume show. So not saying that you should do a costume show for your goats, but they just do things creative to get the crowd excited. So we don't do it at the county level, but at the state level, we have a llama costume show. So it's something
at our county fair, we have round robin where people sign up for it no matter what animal they have, and you never know what animal you're going to get, and it's just showing other people's animals and stuff, which is a lot of fun. There's also the Barnyard Beauty Contest, which I actually did last year with 2 of our SCIs. It's not fun getting a tutu on a goat, let me tell you. It's fun for everybody watching, but it is not fun for those trying to do it. But, you know, again, getting the awareness and stuff out there and everything. It's just, it's a great thing. But yeah, I mean, we have a Puppy Pals group with our 4-H group, and they do a demonstration. And they just went to, you know, the fair people and said, hey, can we do this? And, you know, so that is something extra you could possibly do, reach out to, you know, the 4-H or the fair and say, hey, can we put on a demonstration, you know, and do the cart or the pack or whatever. Because, I mean, everybody enjoys that. And, again, anything to get that exposure out there. And there's not, you know, any other breeds really that are so versatile that are, you know, meat, dairy, fiber, working. I know, Sarah, you use your goats to work and everything. So, but just being able to show some of that stuff and the versatility in the breed. I haven't had any issues with anybody in regards to horns. I've had no pushback from anybody at the fair. My biggest pushback is having a buckling older than 4 months old and making sure they're not near anybody else. And they don't want any bucklings over a year old either.
Our premium books makes it very explicit that there's no horns allowed, meat or dairy. So having this other category will be huge for us because if we don't have that requirement in the other, then we can use that as our little defense and just walk around with it in our pocket whenever somebody tries to shame us.
Can you approach to have the premium book changed at some point? Like, is there a process to have stuff added or?
I've asked in, like, just at the fair in the barn, like, talking to some of the people that are working as representatives, and they just kind of look at me like I'm crazy. Like, why would you even try? Like, because they're just so, I don't want to say brainwashed, but that's all they know is to discard. Like, it just doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't. So I haven't found somebody that's what they do here, too. Like, there's just no discussion about it. You have to dehorn them. And
now, is your fair run by, like, local farm people or, like, because our livestock, and maybe that's why we're not having as many issues, is run by the 4-H Virginia Tech Cooperative Extension. So, are you asking me?
Technically, our fair here, I don't know if all Minnesota fairs are this way, but our county fair, for perspective, we live 20 minutes from St. Paul. So we are very well developed. There's not a lot of actual farms in Washington County anymore.
And we asked at the actual Virginia State Fair when we worked in the where they would show in the animals and the cows and the goats and everything. And then we have not discovered the fair in our new county yet, but I'm sure there's one somewhere. We just don't know where.
I will ask for the process. Jasper, I should know Jasper's last name, but I don't. He doesn't actually own SCIs. He actually owns boars in Idaho. He wants to get out of boars and into SCIs. And so he was working with his county 4-H extension leader, and they were then working with the state 4-Hers to have a heritage category of goats added, and there's like, they vote, I guess, once a year to make changes to, I guess, the premium book or whatever it's called. And they missed the deadline. They had the wrong date, and so they missed it by a week.
Oh, no.
But, so I need to get that information from him so we can see how it worked in Idaho. I mean, he may have just, I think because boars are such a big deal and they already have horns in Idaho, that maybe, adding another goat with horns wasn't a big deal. I think it was more along the lines of adding a goat that was not a boar, because obviously we don't get that chunkiness, and we don't, our adults look like a 6-month boar. So, yeah, so let me make note of that. I'm
going to have to hang up. I have to go get one of my kids at work.
Well, thank you so much, Jerry, for logging in. We appreciate it. Tell everyone, have a great night.
All right, bye-bye.
Any other thoughts? Anyone?
Oh, I got interrupted by my daughter because
no problem.
Our county fair is run. And so our county fair is run by a county fair board. The land is owned by the county fair. And so it's a board. So it's not by the 4-H group. It's not by an extension service. It's just its own thing. But we are completely
even the livestock and stuff, because I know we have a county board as well. But as far as the livestock, and animal entries and stuff, the board pushes all that off to the 4-H extension.
Yeah,
so
there's
to do with that.
So like the horse shows are totally independent of 4-H. There is like a 4-H night for horse shows,
right.
But horse shows are completely independent, like events, if you will. Like they're like a sub-event within the county fair. The 4-H livestock is under the county fair's board's discretion too. So like when I talk about the horns, that's 4-H's rules, not the county fair's rules.
Gotcha.
But so when I reference the premium book, that's our 4-H group, not the county fair itself.
Gotcha.
So our county fair itself I don't think they care. It's just the people running our 4-H chapter or our 4-H county and the state are more particular. But I don't think we have a lot of boars in Minnesota. It's a lot more dairy goats, so not a lot of meat in Minnesota.
Has the 4-H group, have they seen your goats and the horns? I'm curious.
Our local chapter, our group leader has goats, and some of them have their horns, and they tried to show their goats a few years ago in like a non-conforming category or something like that. Like they had entered them, and they got docked points for everything. It was just like super judgmental and discrimination for their goats being different. Like they didn't even give them a fair chance. So Becky, our leader, she's just like, I think she just has too much on her plate, so she didn't want to push it. She was like, we just don't do it anymore. We only show the ones that are just budded, and they have both. And I'm like, I don't know how that works, but I
think that is something, not necessarily horns, but I know the first year we showed, they put, our boys with the Nigerians and stuff, and of course the judges and
you cut out after you said the judges.
And they are shaped and built so much differently than a Nigerian or whatever, but since they were only 2 months old, they just threw them in there. But that's the thing, again, getting the knowledge out there. I know the FFA has been going and doing a lot of judging competitions and stuff and studying different breeds, so I don't know if that's something we can try and figure out a way to get, judges themselves more knowledgeable about the build and the breed and everything as well.
Well, that's a good point, is how do you reach the people that are doing the actual judging so they are educated and aware so they can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
All right. Did we miss anything, or do we have a good start and plan to move ahead? Victoria, is there anything in particular you want to ask or I didn't ask?
I think that you covered all of the questions that I had because it was mostly how people are using them currently or like why they thought San Clemente's, but I think you got it all.
Perfect, perfect. Well, if nobody has anything else, I guess that's all I have for happy hour. All we need is thoughts on a topic for next month. Anyone have something or?
I think maybe just expanding on some more of what we were talking about tonight, because we covered more than 4-H and youth programs, but, maybe like getting the exposure or getting in with the judging groups, committees, or whatever, trying to figure out that stuff.
All right, that's a great idea. My typing slow, sorry, as I'm trying to make sure I don't forget things. All right. Well, I will get this pulled together and I will get the copies of everything in the notes out, and thank you guys so much for coming. And I'm so excited because I really do think it's important that we get these goats, into youth programs. It's where the future is, and it's a great way to promote the breed and make sure we're starting young. And, we have breeders that will be around hopefully for decades to come. So, well, you guys have, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say yes, thank you. And Caitlin's interested in Air Palace now, too. After this
talk. Well, I think Jerry will be back at, hopefully Jerry will be, her children were at Go-to-Palooza last year, so hopefully they will be back again with Arapawas. They really are cool. They come in different colors. They're very similar to San Clemente, slightly smaller, and they come in a variety of odder colors than ours, with some reds and stuff like that. So they're an interesting breed. Well, that's all I have. It was so good to see y'all. Thank you for coming. If you're affected by the smoke, good luck. Stay healthy. And for everybody under drought, I will pray for rain for all of us soon. Nice, gentle rain, no flooding or tornadoes, stuff like that. We don't want those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Everybody have a
You're
great
welcome.
one.